Welcome back. We are on a journey to come closer to Jesus Christ. And I'm excited about our topic today because as we kind of are still at the beginning of this journey, it makes sense that we would start with the very beginning of Jesus Christ's life. And this is even before he was born, his life inside the womb. And we're in a situation where she finds out she's pregnant. And she knows that she hasn't been with a man. So this is already impossible. And I want to talk about, not just for Mary, but for with us, how all things with God are possible. The scriptures tell us over and over, for with God, nothing is impossible. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, I want to talk about what was happening with Mary. First of all, with the writings that the scriptures came from, Mary's name actually would likely have been Miriam in their language. In the writings from Alfred Edersheim in his book called The Life and Times of Jesus, the Messiah, this is what he says. He says, there is no situation that could have been imagined that would be more contrary to Jewish thought and feeling than what was happening with Mary. Because it wasn't just that she's pregnant before she's married. That's one thing. Number one, Mary's pregnant before she's married. That is just not done. It is absolutely not acceptable. They can be stoned because they do that. Number two, the angel Gabriel did not appear in some grand temple, but in the privacy of a humble home in Nazareth. The third thing that happened is they had an emperor who was a heathen and he was Jewish. The fact that they would have someone ruling over them instead of their own king or God or savior was just not even, it was beyond not okay. But the fact that the person who was ruling over them that was a heathen was also Jewish was even worse. It was the greatest insult. The fourth thing is that they had a census called where the Jews had to go and register, and it would not normally have happened at that time. The census, number five, the census was not called for by the Roman leaders, but at the bidding of the heathen emperor who was hated by everyone. And the sixth thing is that all of this would represent all that was most repugnant to Jewish feelings. So it was more than just that Mary was pregnant out of wedlock. And in Luke chapter 1, verses 26 through 38, it shares the story. And I invite you to read through the story because I want you to notice little things that you will pick out that you notice, that are tender to your heart. But one of the things I want to point out to you is that when the angel was telling her that she's pregnant, it was interesting because she had so much faith that she was okay with that. But what she wanted to know, she didn't doubt it. She just said, how is it possible? How did this happen? She didn't say that didn't happen, that's not possible. She already accepted that it was so. But she wanted to know how it was possible. Because keep in mind, in those days, they were so much more believing than our world at large is today. Because what they would be thinking is they believed in angels appearing. They believed in these kinds of miracles. So Mary very likely would have already been believing of a miracle, but notice her response is, why would it be me? She's very humbled by the fact that she would be the one chosen, not that it happened at all. And many Jewish people at that time, those are things they believed in. Nowadays, we don't always have those kind of beliefs. We find it harder to believe that someone saw an angel. But I want to point out what it says in verse 37. It says, for with God, nothing shall be impossible. What that means is that what happened to Mary was not impossible. What that means is that when Einstein was trying to figure out all these mathematical equations that would change the world forever, it was not impossible because the Lord helps and guides us and helps us find answers, helps us to the successes that we're looking for. What that means is that in your life, nothing is impossible. There may be things that you feel like can never be fixed. There may be things that you don't see how it could even be possible. You don't see how it can ever have an outcome that could be good or what you are hoping for. But I want you to know that with God, nothing is impossible. Let me give you a few examples from the scriptures. In Luke chapter 1, verse 37, it says, "For no word from God will ever fail." In Matthew 19:26, it says, "Jesus looked at them and said, 'With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible.'" In Mark 10:27, it says, "Jesus looked at them and said, 'With man it is impossible, but not with God. For with God all things are possible.'" There is evidence after evidence that nothing is impossible with God. And what that means is that in your life, He can step in. He can be there however you are needing that. He can guide you. He can lift the burdens. If the burdens aren't going to be taken away from you, He can lift them so that you can bear them. He can make you stronger so that you can bear them. He can help heal any relationship that is broken. If you feel like your life is broken, if you feel like there's anything in your life that you don't know how to resolve, and there might be things that you think you're fine, but you've just given up hope on certain things. It might be your relationship with God and with Jesus Christ. It is possible. The most important thing is that you find your way back to hope again, because hope is necessary to have faith. And Satan wants to take away our faith. He wants to take away our hope. So if you are in a place where you struggle with what you're believing or what you're thinking, or you just would like to get closer to Christ and you're feeling a little more removed than you have in the past, guess what? Satan is working. He doesn't want us to do this. So look for the places in your life where you can invite Christ in, which is every place, but look for the places where you can start taking those steps right now. And there's something you've heard in this video that made you stop and think, that made your heart feel tender, that made you maybe even bristle a little bit and think, but how is that possible? If you had an emotion, I want you to latch onto that, and I want you to pick that thing and choose that to work on this week, and really be aware and let Jesus Christ come in and help you heal that, or help you improve that, help you practice that, and you will see your life start to change. And your journey on this one thing this week is the perfect start.